this not risk producing, instead of freedom, a kind of ur-freedom, where people think they're acting freely, when in fact they are bound to forces over which they have no control? The CIA's engagement in cultural warfare raises other troubling questions. Did financial aid distort the process by which intellectuals and their ideas were advanced? Were people selected for their positions, rather than on the basis of intellectual merit? And what did Arthur Koestler mean when he lampooned the international academic call girl circuit of intellectual conferences and symposia? Were reputations secured or enhanced by membership of the CIA's cultural consortium? How many of those writers and thinkers who acquired an international audience for their ideas were really second-raters, ephemeral publicists, whose works were doomed to the basements of second-hand bookstores? Whose works were doomed to the basements of second-hand bookstores? Whose works were doomed to the basements of second-hand bookstores? Whose works were doomed to the basements of second-hand bookstores? Whose works were doomed to the basements of second-hand bookstores? How many others drunk too heavily at the trial, their creative energy sapped by the weight of their expense accounts? What most irritated us, wrote Jason Epstein some years ago, was that the government seemed to be running an underground gravy train whose first-class compartments were not always occupied by first-class passengers. The CIA and the Ford Foundation, among other agencies, had set up and were financing an apparatus of intellectuals selected for their correct Cold War positions as an alternative to what one might call a free intellectual market, where ideology was presumed to count for less than individual talent and achievement, and where doubts about established orthodoxies were taken to be the beginning of all inquiry. It had at last become clear how bad a bargain the intellectuals had made, that it could never have been in the interest of art or literature, of serious speculation of any kind, or even of humanity itself, for them to serve the will of any nation. It will perhaps be another 50 years before we discover whether the CIA still exerts influence over the cultural affairs of this and indeed other nations. On the lobby wall of the CIA's headquarters at Langley, Virginia, is engraved this from St. John's Gospel: "The truth shall make you free." It's time it did.